this conversation. But here in Florida, of course, we do have the Delta variant, and we're probably accounting for about 20% of the cases in the United States. And it's quite active here. Uh, Breakthrough cases. I've had friends that were not vaccinated that have passed away. But I've also had friends that are vaccinated that are in ICU with serious life-threatening Delta infections. You had mentioned you're preparing for another wave of infection the end of September. Any particular reason why the end of September is on the focus of the medical personnel there in India? Over.
QSL Alpha Alpha for Foxtrot Lima, PU3 Whiskey Tango Japan returning to the group. Yes, this question is absolutely valid question because whenever we are looking towards the epidemiologic epicenter and route of spread across the country and from last year's experience and this year's experience, the Indian Council of Medical Research has calculated the predicted time to get the maximum number of cases. So as per that calculation, this is basically predictive analysis. So as per that calculation, it is predicted that by September last, maybe we are going to face the larger number of Delta variant cases. So, but there is no strong proof behind that it will happen. But it is predicted it may happen by the last week of September. This is the thing. Microphone back to you, Alpha Alpha 4 Foxtrot Lima. This is BO3 Whiskey Tango Japan. Over.
Victor Uniform 3, Whiskey Tango Japan, Alpha 4, Foxtrot Lima, waiting here for the top of the hour for the Marco Amateur Radio Council and that. Sir Sandhu, here in Florida, we don't know. We're having a pretty big increase, of course, in the number of cases due to the infectivity of Delta, where they're reporting here that it's equating it with the infectivity of the chickenpox virus in terms of its ability to propagate. But what we have starting next week is, 12-year-olds and under returning to school. I'm going to let this drop one here just to make sure we don't time out anything. Hang on. I think it's saying that half of our population is vaccinated, but if you look at the 12-year-olds and under, none of them are vaccinated, and they're all headed back to school. So I don't know the science of their infectivity and their ability to spread. I know they don't express serious symptoms nearly as much, although we're starting to see them hospitalized just in lower numbers than adults. But with them being mixing in schools here, hopefully with masks, some states are not requiring masks, there's still a good percentage of the population unvaccinated. The concern to me is if they have the ability to spread the virus, it will get into the unvaccinated pool and spread exponentially. Over and back to you, Mr. Sinton.
Yes, QSL Alpha Alpha 4 Foxtrot Lima, BO3 Whiskey Tango Japan returning. Yes, absolutely correct. See the effect of vaccine. The vaccine we are using right now. Yeah, there are two thing. One is Covishield and another is Covaxin developed by Pfizer. So those vaccines are based on the previous strains that are available before. So first question is whether this vaccine will be effective against the Delta variant or not. This is the first question. The answer no one knows. Second issue is Delta variant is very prone to infect the children, and children are not vaccinated. In India, above 18 years, uh, groups are vaccinated right now. So this is the second problem. So these two things will increase the Delta variant cases by end of September. That's why it is predicted. Second thing is clinical manifestation. It is very bizarre and there is no fixed clinical manifestation. I was working in COVID management hospital for last 4 months and just for adult cases for other alpha or beta variant, maximum cases came with pulmonary infection, secondary infection, specifically I can say pneumonia, and maybe few cases with multi-organ failure or those cases who have some comorbidity, those cases are much more affected by these conditions. But in case of Delta variant, we cannot say specifically what will be the actual clinical manifestation because there are multiple studies are going on with respect to different serum markers and other systems clinical features. So it's very difficult to say how we are going to evaluate if a child who is infected by the Delta variant. So this is the issue here. So microphone back to you. Alpha Alpha 4 Foxtrot Lima. This is VU3 Whiskey Tango Japan. Over.
This is AA4FL. This is Jay in Delray Beach, Florida today, getting ready to run the Marco Amateur Radio, Medical Amateur Radio Divina that starts at the top of the hour. We've already had VU3WTJ, one of our members in India, check in. Are there any other members that would like to do an early check-in? If so, go ahead and make your call at this time.
November 3, India Mike.
N5 RTF.
Okay, very fine, Keith and Jeff. Thank you for joining us. I acknowledge you logged in online. N3IM and N5RTF. Sir Sundo VU3WTJ is here. He was transmitting and I was copying most of it, and I don't think it's on his end. For some reason, I have drops on my end. That seemed to be a technical issue with my DV stick and network, so hopefully we'll get him a chance to give a report here in just a few minutes. Are there any other stations, any Marco members or any guests that would like to do an early check-in for the digital voice net for the Medical Amateur Radio Council at the top of the hour? Early check-ins are available now. Please go ahead and make your calls in net control, AA4FL.
Good morning, Doc. This is Howard at 9 on Health, November 9, Oscar Mike over.
Howard, thank you for joining us again, copying you 100%. It's nice to hear your voice. It's nice to have you participating. As I mentioned to the others, Victor Uniform 3, Whiskey Tango Juliet, Sir Senza, one of our members in India, is with us today. So hopefully you'll get a chance to hear his presentation and we can ask questions for Sir Senza. Obviously, from a geographical locale, he is in an area of very high stress from COVID infection and in a battle. And he's part of the health system there that is waging that battle. Any other stations that would like to do an early check-in, please go ahead and make your call now.
Roger, November 3, India Mike. This is VU3 Whiskey Tango Japan. Do you copy? Over.
BU3WPJ, this is N3IM, I copy.
And I copied both of you on that last exchange, Sendu. So as the net comes on here, even if I'm not hearing you, others will tell me. But I did hear your transmission on that last exchange, and once the net starts, we'll direct traffic through net control. So I'm sure a lot of stations will want to ask you questions, and I'll be more than happy to make sure that you have the availability to field those questions and answer them. Hey, 4FL, any other early check-ins from the Medical Image Radio Council night? Go ahead and make your call.
Roger, Alpha Alpha for Foxtrot Lima and Mike 3 India Mike, November 3 India Mike and the group. This is VU3 Whiskey Tango Japan returning. I was talking regarding the coronavirus scenario and the prediction thing, what we are following in India. So I like to discuss the thing with all of you. I first ask if you have any question regarding the prediction or maybe the treatment protocol or something, vaccination. Please go ahead and you can ask me first. So microphone back to you. Alpha 4 Foxtrot Lima. Please control the net over.
Thank you, Sir Sendu. I copied that entire exchange. We'll start the net in about 2 minutes and then do check-ins, and then we'll start the exchange of dialogue. Sir Sendu, I'm glad you're here to discuss all this. Remember, it's still basically like a repeater. You've got 2 minutes and let the signal drop. So we want to do short transmissions versus long explanations, and we can use our listserv, the Google group, for any additional questions. In addition, let me let it drop one. In addition, Sir Sendu, if you use, there's a program called NetLogger, and if you download that program, you'll be able to see all the individuals that have checked in. And there's also an instant message feature. For example, Hilton PY2BDQ, who is a member of the Presence every week in Brazil, is not going to be able to attend today, but he is recording and posted the link to the live stream on the NetLogger instant message window. So for those of you listening that haven't downloaded NetLogger, it really is helpful to be able to do exchanges in real time on the screen. I see we have someone else here online. Is there anybody else that would like to do an early check-in for the Medical Image Radio Council net? Well, it is that time here for the net to initiate. So let's go ahead and get started. And good morning, or in Sir Sendu's case in India, good evening. Welcome to the Marco Digital Voice Net. This is AA4FLJ. I'll be the net control for this session. The purpose of the Digital Voice Net is to provide a discussion forum for current medical events and issues, and our members through check-in act as topic presenters. It is an exchange of discussion moderated by net control, and we encourage members and also listeners who want to participate in the exchange to check in. All stations, national and international, are welcome to join the net and participate in the discussion. Drop one. This is a directed net. It does work from the login list. All calls will be made to the net control station, and we keep the session, as I mentioned, on NetLogger, so you can check it as directed, and you can review the check-ins on NetLogger, but I'll go through a list of who's checked in here momentarily. We meet every Saturday at 1500 UTC. Note that we're here on the QuadNet array, their system, which is a system that allows transcoding of different digital modalities through link repeaters in the region as well. Today I'm originating from Delray Beach on a DV stick on my laptop sitting on my porch. And others here, I'm sure, are coming in using different modalities. Wait one. Before I do a little housekeeping, are there any stations on the air here that have emergency or priority traffic for the net that would like to go ahead and inform of us right here before we get into more extensive discussions? Make your call now. Okay, nothing heard. Are there any mobile stations or stations that won't really be able to participate in that, but you have an announcement or you'd like to check in now and then let net control know, so if you're not available for the roundtable discussion, you won't be called on. If you would like to check in now, if you're mobile or have limited time, do so now. Before we proceed to regular check-ins, for those of you who have not participated previously, just a few housekeeping items and operating parameters. We recommend that stations using radios enable the busy channel lockout feature on your transceiver if you have one. Enabling this feature will prevent doubling with other stations. To avoid tailgating using this quad DV network, because when you key up, leave a 2 seconds or 3 gap before you speak. You need to allow the link repeaters and hotspots around the world to synchronize with the reflector and other repeaters in the network. And stations are going to be asked to check in here. The traffic goes through net control AA4FL. So please be aware of that and give some time in terms of spacing. AA4FL now opening up the net for regular check-ins. If you're not checking already, please direct your call to AA4FL.
AA4FL. This is K3FZT, Kilo 3, Foxtrot, Zulu Tango.
QSL, thank you very much, Stephen, for joining us again today. We look forward to having you as part of the discussions. Is KB0 Lima Zulu, are you available? Did you want to check in? Go ahead.
Hello, Bravo 0 Lima Zulu. That is correct. I am checking in mostly to listen. I have not much to contribute today, but we'll listen eagerly to find out how things are going internationally. So, Alpha 4 Foxtrot Lima, this is Kilo Bravo 0 Lima Zulu standing by.
KB0LZ. James, thanks for joining us. As soon as we finish with check-ins, we have Sir Sandhu VU3WTJ who will describe to us what's happening in India. Also have John WA8YXM who's with us today, who's going to be listening, and we're glad to have him as fairly regular, and very interested in this as well. Are there any other individuals that are listening that don't have the advantage of John, which is the instant messaging feature, that would let me know that they're listening, but they don't want to participate in voice contact? Please go ahead and make your call now.
Hello, Charlie. 2 Alpha November Tango Mobile. First time checking.
refer to that, however, it's not really referred to, but you're okay with it. Hey, Dad, I'm also ill, Adam, thank you very much for checking in with us, KC2ANT, in the beautiful Finger Lakes area, one of my favorite places to visit. Not just because of wine country and the beautiful lakes, there's just so much recreation in the area. Thank you for joining us. We're glad you can participate. Any other stations that would like to check in? Go ahead and make your call now.
This is November Echo 2 Whiskey, checking in, listen only, Ed in Binghamton, New York. November Echo 2 Whiskey.
Thank you, Ed. Eddie QW, appreciate you being here with us, and glad you're on hand. We'll have some important reports here from India shortly. Any other stations that would like to acknowledge their presence or do regular check-in, please go ahead and make your call. 84 IZ. Thank you, Jack. KD4IZ. Glad to have you here. I know personally I have questions, Jack, about children, courtesy of your wife being a pediatric infectious disease specialist. And, as you know here, what's going on in Florida here, we're not requiring masks in school, I'm actually prohibiting it. That reservoir of children under 12, I'm curious later in the net if you know some details about the potential for them to be a reservoir for infection to those that are unvaccinated. Any other stations that would like to make a call, go ahead and do so at this time.
This is KG6JLE calling Atherton, California.
This is KF0DAT, Doug in Kansas.
Well, thank you very much, Paul and Doug, for checking in. I acknowledge you. KG6JLE and KF0DAT. I'll go ahead and just do a run through of who has checked in and who is available today, and give you an idea for the amount of activity and whether or not you additional listeners would like to check in. And of course, not everyone needs to check in with traffic. You're more than welcome to check in just for listening. But those who have checked in today and made themselves available, myself, VU3WTJ in India, N3IM, N5RTF, N9OML, K3FZT, KB0LZ, KC2ANT, NE2W, KD4IZ, KG6JLE, KF0DAT, with WA8YXM listening. Is there anyone else that would like to check in before we proceed to net dialogue? Make your call to AA4FL at this time. No other calls received, so we're going to start our dialogue. And we have VU3, very honored to have VU3WTJ here with us today. I'm not sure, was it New Delhi? You let us know again, Sir Senta, where you're located. I know you're very busy and you have a large professional commitment and responsibility in India at this time. please let us know what's happening in India, what concerns and treatment that's occurring, and also, well, take questions. We'll generate a question list. So direct the traffic through me, and as I'll collect individuals that might have questions and direct them to ask you those questions directly. But at this time, go ahead and make a presentation, Sir Center.
Roger, Alpha 4, Foxtrot Lima, this is VU3, Whiskey Tango Japan returning. Yes, for COVID management, here is two things. We are comparing the treatment results from last year to this year. And last year it was said that ivermectin was very effective, but this year it is found that ivermectin is not that much effective. So this kind of many things comes and go, but what we saw is pulmonary infection, the main cause of death. What we are observing here. So there are two groups. The groups those who have some kind of comorbidity like CVS or respiratory system or any maybe diabetic or maybe any kind of renal disease. Those persons are having the more chances to get develop pneumonia or any kind of lung infection secondary to COVID. But young patients, those who have oxygen concentration or SpO2 more than 90%, they don't have that kind of risk that I observed in last 4 months. So this is the current thing is going on here. So microphone back to you. Alpha 4 Foxtrot Lima. This is VU3 Whiskey Tango Japan. Over.
You said that you noticed an effectiveness last year, the vaccine that's not happening this season. So the vaccines you're using, are they more traditional or are they mRNA generated vaccines? Over.
Yes, sir. Alpha 4 Foxtrot Lima VU3 Whiskey Tango Japan returning. Yes, that two vaccines are using got used in this area. First is Covaxin, that is made by Pfizer, and second is Covishield, that is made by AstraZeneca. So Covishield is a completely made in India product, and it is developed by National Institute of Virology, Pune. And maximum people got the Covishield vaccine here. It is from clinical side of view, it shows less kind of anaphylactic reaction or any kind of post injection reaction thing. The same thing, some anaphylactic reaction cases are observed in Covaxin. I don't know why that happened, but a few cases got reported here. So this is the thing. So maximum people got vaccinated by Covishield, that is developed by Pune. A microphone back to you. Alpha 4 Foxtrot Lima. This is VU3 Whiskey Tango Japan. Over.
Epidemiology, and you see that the vaccines have started to have Delta as an escaping the immunity. Have you considered features to be added to the vaccines that may increase the effectiveness, in particular, due to features of the Delta virus? You've had Delta virus as an issue in India longer than us here in the United States, so you've had a head start on that scientific inquiry. Has that scientific inquiry started in India? Over.
Roger. Yes, definitely that scientific inquiry is already started, and again, National Institute of Virology and Indian Council of Medical Research are jointly working on that. They are testing whether this vaccine is effective against the Delta variant or not. And at initial stages, a few cases were detected in Kerala and part of Maharashtra. So they are working on that. Hopefully, we are expecting some result by end of this month, maybe, as they are told in a press release. So this is the thing. So we are waiting for their report. What they are saying, is the existing vaccine is effective against the Delta variant or not. This is the thing. Microphone back to you. Alpha Alpha 4 Foxtrot Lima. This is VU3 Whiskey Tango Japan. Over.
Thank you for the discussion and information, Sir Sandhu. I understand the challenges you're up against. The professionals I've worked with that have been trained in India medically and from a dental standpoint have always been excellent clinicians and sharp in intellectual scientific curiosity. So I hope to hear success from your country and acknowledge with a very large country with different segments of the population from ethnic backgrounds spread throughout the country, what a daunting challenge it must be. At this time, before we just do a roundtable, would you please, if you'd like to ask specific questions of Sir Sandhu, please direct your call sign here to AA4FL Net Control. I will start a list of those that would like to ask Sir Sandhu questions. Please go ahead at this time.
N4TSE late check-in.
Okay, I confirm N4TSC is a check-in. Are there any stations involved in the net that are actually here checked into the net or have not checked in yet that would like to ask questions or send to as I generate a list of those that have questions? Please go ahead and make your call now. Okay, no individuals' questions other than what will come up in the round table to send to Victor Uniform 3, Whiskey Tango Juliet, AA4FL. So Sandra, as we mentioned before, because the net really is great for short questions and effective, but in terms of presenting the science and the experiences that you're going through in India, and I know you do have a net of medical professionals in India. If you can encourage them to participate through you, any links to scientific articles, anything you'd like to provide, feel free to do so. You're a member of the Medical Amateur Radio Council Google listserv, and I encourage you to use that to share with us, and we may generate even more. Because 90% of our members are not active in the digital voice net, Sir Sandhu. Sir Sandhu, back to you for a follow-up.
Yes, it's an Alpha Alpha 4 Foxtrot Lima. This is VU3 Whiskey Tango Japan returning. Thank you so much, Jay, for this nice digital voice net. And I'm very happy today I get a response from the whole group. And I will try to participate in this digital voice net every Saturday, so we can exchange our knowledge and opinions on the clinical side. So wishing all of you have a very good day. Have a good day. 73. Bye bye.
Thank you again for participating, Sir Sandhu. I know the time of day is probably not convenient for you, and we do appreciate your involvement. And please invite other Indian amateur radio operators in the medical community to participate as well. We would be honored to have their presence here. And if they want to be involved in the Medical Amateur Radio Council, we'd similarly be honored. Thank you for participating. 7-3 Sir Sandhu. This is AA4FL Net Control from the Medical Amateur Radio Council. Are there any other late check-ins? Go ahead and make your call now. Okay, on our check-in list, next on the list for dialogue, for discussion, is November 3, India Mike. Go ahead, Keith.
A4FL in the group. Yeah, I was. It was interesting to note that the vaccination rate is picking up a little bit. Hopefully, it will pick up more because we know that the vaccine helps decrease the disease process. And there have only been, according to UC Davis, there have only been approximately less than 0.5% of vaccinated people getting breakthrough cases. And when they do get them, they're less problematic. And it is the younger age groups which tend to be unvaccinated and getting the Delta variant. So we need to be a little more cognizant of trying to convince the younger age group to get their vaccine and continue to use necessary precautions as needed, depending on the situation you're in. Here in Pennsylvania, we're wide open. We're having our local Clinton County Fair right now, and I don't see anybody wearing masks out there. Maybe 1 out of 1,000. So we're not seeing an uptick yet here, but we'll see what happens after the fair. This is N3IM with AA4FL in the Marco Group.
Thank you very much for that report, Keith, and we're glad to hear that Pennsylvania, and I know in the past you've reported this, Pennsylvania in general has done very well with compliance, and that may be one of the reasons why the outlook is that can have open social events like fairs. Again, just one other comment, because I'm seeing friends here locally having breakthroughs. And one is a hand who I went to Turks and Caicos with a number of years ago. He's actually in the hospital fighting for his life now, even though he had 2 doses of vaccine. So the question for us to ponder here as a group, many of us have been vaccinated now 7, 8 months ago. So will breakthroughs increase as time proceeds, and where will they be on boosters in the near future? And will those boosters have different features or just be an extra dose of the same? So we'll perhaps address that in the ongoing discussion here. But before we move on, Keith, any comments about that, about my comment? Go ahead.
AA4FL N3IM. Yeah, just one comment. I noticed the World Health Organization is asking to withhold booster shots for the time being because they want the vaccine available around the world to those who have been unvaccinated, and they're afraid that the people getting booster shots will decrease the number of doses of vaccine that are available. That's my only other comment. N3IM, AA4FL, this is N3IM.
AA4FL with N3IM in the group. Keith's point well taken. In an odd sort of way, there's not intended but wisdom in that if even if our population is 100% vaccinated and the rest of the world is not, that is the opportunity for other variants to be escape mutants and escape immunity, so they can still come back to haunt us. So obviously, it will take time to get the entire world vaccinated, but I doubt those of us in the United States in political and health circles will wait on booster shots when it's found to be appropriate. And other countries are starting to do that as well. So there is a dichotomy of reasons, unfortunately. There's haves and have-nots. But as long as the have-nots exist, the risk exists to the haves, no matter how much vaccination you have in the population. I think we're next on the list to Chip, N5 RTF. Nice to have you with us this morning, Chip. How are you doing in all things?
try again. We're wearing masks again indoors in New Orleans, probably because of our identity as a tourist destination. We went up really quickly with this Delta variant. We had 48 deaths last week, with 2,400 in hospitals. 84% of the deaths were people who were not vaccinated. So what is happening is that not Louisiana as a whole, but Orleans Parish, people, almost everyone now has known someone who has died or had a severe case, either a friend or a family member, and our vaccination rate is going up really high. It's approaching about 50% compared to 35 or something like that in Louisiana as a whole. Interestingly, the black vaccination rate is higher than the white rate. Again, probably due to direct witnessing of the outcome of catching COVID. N5RTF.
Thank you very much, Chuck, for the explanation and input. We wish your communities the best, and we know that the situation is dynamic. The science is rapidly advancing and being released almost on a daily basis, at least to those in the know. This efficacy issue, it remains to be seen for accuracy as it unfolds. It seems counterlogical, counterintuitive with as time goes on that we're not going to see more breakthroughs. It resembles many other types of vaccine, not any, because obviously the ones have permanent effectiveness. And what you're seeing in Friends now, and what I'm seeing in Friends, as you mentioned, a segment of society that's seeing it in Friends getting vaccinated, is may come into greater focus here in the near future. Thanks for participating. Howard, I don't remember if you wanted to be involved in the dialogue, but if so, go ahead and take the mic.
Thank you, Jay. It's N9OML. I have a question that I'd like to pose, just something that I don't totally understand. The news and manufacturers have made it pretty clear that at some point boosters are going to be recommended. I think the manufacturers have made this winter. My question is sort of generic, I guess, but when booster shots are given, are they simply an additional dose of the vaccine as it is, or are they tweaked or re-engineered to address evolving changes in the vaccine, or strong mutations or strong variants that are doing a better job at beating the vaccine? And I guess that question holds for both traditional vaccines, and then with the mRNA vaccine, does it give a better opportunity to re-engineer on the fly? And part of that question then involves supply chain and stockpile versus the need to spin up new production of booster shots that would somehow be different than the regular vaccine. So that would be my question, and if you could either field it or pass it to the right doctor, scientist, if someone's out there that can help with that, I'd appreciate it. This is N9OML, back to net control.
Well, thank you, Howard. Crescendo touched on that slightly, saying that the epidemiologists and the researchers are going to have more conclusions at the end of the month. I'd imagine both will be true in time, both approaches, but not being privy to the science here, I certainly wouldn't be offering other than personal opinion. But Jack, KV4IZ, do you have any input on what's happening with the science that would address Howard's question? Go ahead.
Yeah, very good. 884FL, KV4IZ, and I apologize. I'm driving on a
Southern York County, Pennsylvania back road. I'm on my way to go pick up a device over in Hanover, Pennsylvania. So it's all back roads from where I was in my meeting this morning at a club meeting. To give what little I know, and this is through discussions with my wife and what I know from industry. We've got at the end of this month, beginning of Katie Four Eyes to continue just very briefly. We now know, unfortunately, that the folks who have been vaccinated can become asymptomatic carriers, and that becomes another issue. Excuse me, Mom. I'm in a rough area, so I don't know if I'm holding up, Jay. But I do know that kids and folks up to about the age of 45 or 50 seem to be the bulk of folks that are getting the primary disease now, and it is almost all Delta. And both Okay, Katie Four Eyes. I don't know if Jack's copying. He did mention he's on a rural road and relying on a hotspot. So it sounds like he lost his cell phone coverage temporarily. Jack, have you gotten to an area where your cell phone capacity is increased? Or go ahead. Okay, assuming that it's not a technical issue on my end, we'll ask from Jack for additional input when he's in an area of coverage for his hotspot. See, Jerry, M4TSC, what wisdom do you have to add to Howard's question? Go ahead.
Okay, very good, N4TSE. I apologize for being a little bit late this morning. I developed a severe toothache last night, and I've been treating it today. I had been on a conversation with the backup. So
Okay, I'm not copying Jerry at the current moment N4TSC. Let's break for a minute here and turn it back to Howard. Howard, are you copying, were you copying both individuals? And are some of your questions being addressed, or do you have any follow-up questions? Go ahead.
K3F said T.
Stephen, just wait one, and I'll call on you next. N9OML, Howard, do you have any follow-up questions for the others? Okay, K3ST, Stephen, go ahead and take the mic.
Thank you, Jay. Hello, everyone in the group. Last evening, I saw the CEO of Moderna on TV speaking for maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes, say quite clearly that Moderna was developing boosters that would include, it was quite explicit, that would include changes in response to Delta variant and perhaps others developing that showed risk to the population. I have no science. I just have the observation of that message last evening on NBC TV. Wait one. I also wanted to share an anecdote. A contractor and a person I know and trust completely visited a customer where he will be working in about 10 days. These customers are elderly and had, during the height of the pandemic, been quite careful. However, last weekend they visited with grandchildren and grandnieces and nephews, and on Monday learned that one 10-year-old was ill and tested positive for COVID. They themselves got tested on Wednesday negatively, and yet failed to mask inside their own home when masked contractors came to visit. So people clearly need to relearn the necessity of masking when they themselves are at risk. Oh, and by the way, these folks have been vaccinated. Just an anecdote, but suggests to me that it will be necessary to reemphasize to people the need for masking when any risk of exposure is in your recent past, within the quarantine time of 10 days typically. Thank you, Jay. Let me turn it back to you, AA4FL. This is K3FZT.
Thank you, Stephen, we appreciate that dialogue. It's a dilemma. Again, dynamic issues at play, because we are looking at different time frames of when individuals were vaccinated. There's no uniform answers yet that I'm aware of from a scientific standpoint. It fluctuates every day. The public gets frustrated when recommendations change, maybe not realizing the implications of the scientific advancements and the scientific changes, and not be willing to have the media be supportive of that as a known issue. So hopefully the next 6 months life will look a lot different than what it dropped one. I believe in the June issue of the Ether, in some of the articles I had included, there was a personal commentary about what we might look for from that point forward. And let's see, it might actually have been in April. And I think the commentary was, because it's been a while, it's probably been April's issue, was two terms to look for: escape mutants and boosters. So I think that's where we're at right now. We know we have Delta that potentially escapes vaccination, but until we get the whole world vaccinated, we certainly have that possibility for something even more infectious. Hopefully not. But booster issue will be tied to that, and it's nice to hear that the potential is there. And I thought that was the whole point of mRNA in terms of research, that they could quickly enforce changes that make it more effective. The others on the list, on the checklist, that haven't made comments yet. I know some of you just wanted to listen. KG6JLE. Paul, would you like to take the mic?
Thank you very much, Jay. This is Paul, KG6JLE. I'm actively working physician here in the Bay Area, affiliated with a large medical center in Palo Alto. And I'm seeing breakthrough infections in my vaccinated patients, younger ones and older ones of solid organ transplants, and also ones who have rheumatologic disorders on immunosuppression. And it's real. Even when wearing our masks on airplanes, the breakthroughs are occurring. The important thing to realize is that doesn't obviously say that the vaccine is not appropriate or working. It's working beautifully. But if you look at age-related infections, even with the vaccination rate, older people are going to have a higher morbidity and mortality rate compared to their younger peers. And that's what I'm seeing. Fortunately, I have not had any deaths in my vaccinated group. They just get sick, minimally symptomatic to asymptomatic too. It was a rough time, but they're better. In terms of booster shots, have solid organ and immunosuppressed patients, and a lot of them are not having any booster shots. A lot of them are not producing antibodies. So again, this is not based on any science, but anecdotally, for those individuals, I am recommending that they do get a booster shot. And if I write a doctor's order, I can get those individuals at very high risk revaccinated for those situations. In terms of school mask mandate, my wife's the district school nurse that treats 5 different schools. Let me break for a sec. That treats 5 different schools, and they're having young people going to school, middle school, and elementary, and there is a mask mandate, which I agree with, and I think it's wonderful to protect our vulnerable young children. I think once the FDA approves the Pfizer vaccine in terms of legitimizing it for regular use, then there'll be fewer reasons why people do not get vaccinated. And hopefully that'll take more effect and we get less sick people. Those are my thoughts. KG6JLE Paul.
Thank you, Paul, for the very important dialogue. We're honored and appreciative of having your presence now on the Marco DV Net. Let me just pause one from commentary and questions and contributions. Are there any other stations? Because I see a few now on the IM feature of NetLogger that are on the air. Are there any other stations that would like to have a late check-in? If so, go ahead and make your call. This is AA4FL, net control for the Medical Image Radio Council, DV. Please make your call this time. Okay, no additional check-ins here, but I'm acknowledging at least those of you that are online, and I'm glad you're here to participate in at least moderating the discussion. I'm sure there's many hands on the QuadNet array system here who are happy to participate and listen without actually discussing. Excuse my cell phone here. But, you're always welcome to participate if you would so choose to do so. Jack, Katie Flies, if you're back in service here with your hotspot, could you please comment if Susie has any information on whether or not the children are going to be a reservoir of possible spread of infection, ones under 12 to the unvaccinated population of adults? Go ahead, Jack. Okay, nothing heard from Jack. Jack's wife is a pediatric infectious disease specialist, so I was hoping to get that input. But perhaps we'll share that on our Google listserv if we write him an email and ask. And the dialogue today has been exceptional. The questions very intellectually focused and timely. This is what we're dealing with on a daily basis. Again, 6 months from now, maybe it will be a different issue, and all we'll do is be anticipating, preparing for escape mutants that don't exist, and working towards getting the rest of the world vaccinated to prevent that from occurring. There are a few other check-in, hands checked in that have not made a presentation. I'm not sure if anyone else wants to. If you do, please go ahead and let Net Control now with a call at this time.
N14 and see if you can copy me.
And for TSC, Jerry, we're copying you fine at this time. Might want to keep your transmissions in 1 minute or less and letting it drop to make sure that you're being heard. But go ahead.
Okay, very good, Jay. Let me just take what I wanted to talk about. Number one, it's been reported that Israel approved the release of nitric oxide aerosol to treat COVID and SARS-2, and it's been released to pharmacies. If anybody has any information on that, that would help us a little bit. I had some inquiries into Israel through contacts that I have, and I have not gotten it. Okay. If you can copy me now. Not in the American literature or not in the American environment per se, but the gamma and lambda mutations are already being reported from other sources. So we need to know whether, in fact, the vaccine that we have now is available. We'll treat it. And getting back to what Howard was saying, that we have boosters that are allegedly being now made to retarget and include these new mutations. So that's what the report is that I have. Now, as far as the current status question as to how effective the the antivirus is, and it's been reported by some sources that and suggested that the effectiveness may be far less than what's being reported. And so then the question comes up as to how can we validate the accuracy of the data that's currently being released to the public. Of vaccination plus mask as and sell it to the public as a belt and suspenders. That's quickly.
And for TSC, not sure if you're finished with your transmissions. I was able to personally copy much of that. Others may have actually copied it more successfully than I did. I had drops. That may be on my end all very good points. I look forward to any information you'd like to share on the Google group. As far as the additional variants, just because we're further along in the alphabet doesn't necessarily mean we're dealing with something that's more virulent. And in terms of a higher infectivity rate, the concern about Delta being that H1 potential transmission scientifically. It's pretty easy to catch apparently, as we heard from Paul in Stanford. So I hope the public needs to understand from a public health standpoint, we do the best you can with the presentations. It's not being offered in anything other than a public health fashion, and the media needs to be supportive of that and realize that, yes, recommendations will change based upon science and science only, and that it's a dynamic situation. I want to drop one. Are there any other stations that are checked in who are not checked in that would like to be part of the conversation and then have an opportunity as of yet? If so, please direct your call to AA for Net Control. Okay, none being heard. Are there any stations here that are checked in that have follow-up comments or follow-up questions? I'll make a list now to acknowledge you. Go ahead and give me your call, and I'll add you to that list. Before I...
99
Okay, welcome back, Jack, and Howard. I've acknowledged you too. So, Jack, when we lost you there, when you lost hotspot coverage, you were actually answering Howard's question to a degree that he had posed. And if you could illuminate a little bit on that. Also, my question of whether or not Susie is aware of the potential for the under 12s to not only be infected, but to show it asymptomatically and come home to the adults and spread it to the unvaccinated or those that are having breakthrough infections. Go ahead, Jack. Okay, well, I'll do the first one last and then try to remember. Actually, I don't know where I actually lost the coverage, so you may have to help me there. As to Susie, yes, there is a considerable amount of, for lack of a better term, subclinical and / carrier state type behavior in the younger kids. Unfortunately, with Delta, there's also a much higher percentage of kids getting sick, clinically sick, and a much higher percentage of kids being hospitalized and put on the ICU. So there is a problem. Delta has exacerbated it uh, it is young people in more so than the older folks, but all of us who've been vaccinated seem to be capable of being carriers, asymptomatic carriers. You may get a breakthrough non-clinical, if you want to call it that, infection or colonization, and may be able to spread it. And I'm glad that the Moderna guy was able to talk on TV about it. I've known of the effort. Both of the RNA vaccine producers are doing the same thing. And so they will have, very much as we see for the flu, they'll have booster shots that have the new antigen coverage. Did I miss anything in and out of all of that, Jay? Well, from my perspective, I believe you addressed it, but I'm going to turn the mic to Howard because he originated the question and may have follow-up questions. And I know, well, no, I'll take the mic.
Thank you, Jay. And yeah, the docs did a great job. I think I understand the answer, and I appreciate it very much. My follow-up question would then be, from a manufacturing standpoint, when they start producing the booster tailored to trying to address the latest threat and predictive to any threat they can kind of get ready for, does that also become the new base vaccine, or do they have to concurrently continue to produce the vaccine we have now and a booster shot? So can the supply chain switch to the most current and then use that as a booster for worldwide as a vaccine for worldwide distribution also? And I know I'm out back to control.
Howard, those are great questions. Very, I'd like to hear Jack's input on that in just a minute. But, from a political standpoint, we've had situations where we've offered vaccine to other countries and been rejected because we're giving something that's out of date, even though, it has extended use and they're not effectively ineffective. But wouldn't that be a political opportunity if we replaced our vaccine and sent unused doses to other places that had less coverage? My gosh, think of the permutations. Katie, before I said, Jack, go ahead. I'm not gonna try to address the political implications, but yeah, I think that's why the big push to get the current vaccines out quickly and for people to forego boosters is an active effort. Jay, I think the thought is we don't have a good booster that has Delta coverage or other variant coverage. So it's a moot point at this point, and if you can get the vaccines out and get them used, then you start from a better point than you did before. I'll leave it there. You can imagine the political the political nonsense that'll go on if that doesn't happen. Yeah, use as your guide. Kind of use the influenza model. The influenza model is the current vaccine is the current vaccine, and we don't have boosters so much in the influenza world. We're more addressing the current problems. We know that variants are out there. There is antigenic drift and antigenic jumping that goes on, and when that happens, they put the latest vaccine out that way. We also know that some of the influenza viruses that are covered in any given vaccine group are still around from the previous year. So I think that's the model they're going to use, and whether you call it a booster or next year's vaccine,
Is a matter of semantics. Over. Katie Moore, Isaac, thank you for the explanation, Jack. Howard, N9OML, did that address your question? Would you have any follow-up questions? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I think it does. If my understanding is correct, then we'll say the optimized version, the most current version, could act as the base vaccine for previously unvaccinated people, so they could adapt the supply, the manufacturing process to the latest, most effective vaccine, and we wouldn't have to work backwards with the older vaccines to get people to the stage of the booster, but rather the mass distribution of the booster either as a true booster for previously vaccinated and the first shot for people that have been dragging their feet or didn't have access. Is that a generally correct understanding, sir?
I'm not going to speak for Jack, but it sounds like conceptually we're all in sync here now, and as to whether or not the existing supply is being used up in anticipation, I don't think that's necessarily, a thought on my end, but it's here and it needs to be used, and we need to get people protected. None of us are virologists or epidemiologists. None of those are making contributions, and we are going by at different levels of degrees information that's publicly available. Perhaps some of us are better able to consume the scientific aspects of that. But we did have, with Paul here, being a practitioner who's actively engaging in the Stanford area, giving reports of the infectivity and the ability of the virus to escape the protection. I think you're hearing some on the clinical side. So KG6JLE, do you have any follow-up comments? Go ahead, Paul.
This is Paul, KG6JLE. Thank you, Jay. Well, in terms of follow-up, what are we doing? A lot of times with the breakthrough infections, we're just monitoring them at home and do, at least in those situations, video visits for continuity of care. In terms of individuals who are immune suppressed, a lot of time the institution I work with gets them into therapeutic trials, giving them the monoclonal antibodies. They give them an antibody boost if their risk profile meets it and age criteria. So that lets them sail through it a little better. And that's what we're basically doing at this point. I'm just waiting for more people to get vaccinated. As an employee, we are mandated to be vaccinated or else. And we wear a sticker on our badge showing our vaccination status. Over.
Thank you, Paul. This is AA4FL. Paul works in the Stanford system, and he explained to me that phenomena or the presence of that being acceptable. Florida, is recalcitrant, both in terms of leadership, but even beyond that, we don't have badges that we wear to the public or the patients know our vaccination status. I think it's a wise idea if individuals don't mind the privacy connotations. Life is difficult. Life is complicated. I think, Paul, the question that I had and the others have here, and we're looking at the ability of this virus to effectively spread. So as it mutates, if you're already up at chickenpox, those of you that are not in the medical field, but still from the public perspective, realize that we have vaccines like smallpox that last a lifetime. And then, as Jack said, we have influenza, which we have changes every year, and we try to address that with updates in the vaccines. So you had mentioned, Paul, how easy it was to catch, and that's starting to become more of the ground, the baseline knowledge here. Are there any other questions? Are there individuals here checked in or not checked in I'll make a list of any follow-up questions before we bring the net to a close. Go ahead and make your call to AA4FL Net Control Medical Image Radio. Council to VNet, make your call this time.
AA4FL and 4TSE.
Okay, we have Jerry here. We're going to let him do a follow-up question. For the general amateur community that uses the quad-net array, we appreciate your patience. The net is advertised or promoted as being from 1500 to 1600 UTC. Certainly, we want to return the net back, the quad-net array back to general amateur use. Very appreciative of the technology. It allows all of us the transcoded ability to use different digital modalities. And of course, many of our members do have different digital modalities. So again, solving the problem of the Tower of Babel, which the quad-net array volunteers, administrators do on a volunteer basis and make this magic happen every week. So let me express my appreciation for them. Jerry, go ahead and let's do a couple of short snippets, and then we'll return the net to the general amateur population. We can have follow-up commentary and questions outside the confines of the net as the availability allows. And for TSC, go ahead.
Okay, AA4FL and 4TSC. Okay, my question is based on any information regarding this issue. That is, how are we maintaining the cold chain of the Pfizer vaccine? And what is the best method of verifying this? It seems to me that it only can be verified via the PCR test, and then we need to compare those who have been vaccinated against those who have not been vaccinated with the PCR test. The question had come up by certain sources that we may be getting breakthroughs because we're not maintaining the cold chain and we don't have the same effectiveness of the antivirus vaccination as we compare it from the lab when it's first produced and as it moves its way through the system of vaccination. Back to you, Jay.
Those are social time spent with the general amateur community. I'd love to have that. I'm personally going to have to move on within the next half an hour to 92nd birthday party for my father-in-law. Hopefully we're all masked and nobody spreads anything, but it's a risk these days, isn't it? AA4FL, any additional needs to have discussion, please go ahead and make your call now. Okay, again, thank you once again for your presence on the net. Good discussion, good quality discussion. We'll have some recordings because Chip records the audio on the audio server, and the extended version on YouTube from Hilton PY2BBQ will be available, and he adds the features of the video exchanges on the IM, the instant message feature from NetLogger and the NetLogger check-in list in real time as they progress. So we appreciate everyone's participation. Be safe, be healthy. Thank you for sharing your desire to keep up with the latest scientific advancements and sharing them on the net. Feel free to use the Google listserv for any additional unfolding timely needs to discuss. We look forward to that as well. AA4FL 773 from the Medical Image Radio Council TVNet. We'll see you next week at 1500 UTC 73. AA4FL returning the quad-net array to general amateur radio use. I'll be monitoring if anyone else would like to say hello, anyone outside of the net, based on the availability of the quad-net array for such traffic. AA4FL will be standing by.
A4FL. Before I said, good night, thank you. So, good discussion as well. I'm glad we were able to do that. Oh boy. I just blew my turn. I love this. Don't do it very often, but that's life at times. I guess I'll have to figure out how to remediate my error. Katie Fry. Katie4IZ, AA4FL. Jack, thank you for being here and available while you're on the road today. It was invaluable, your participation. And it's nice to see some new voices and very pertinent contributions. Very timely, pertinent from different viewpoints, and that's what it takes here. So we do still find value. Hopefully we can get up through the service of COVID and have this net be about some other medical topics. It just seems to be the gift that keeps on giving, hopefully not in perpetuity. But this is just a phenomenal feature that most Marco members are not taking advantage of. Drop one. So, Jack, last week the dialogue was both here and on the listserv and talking about it, making the recordings available. If members are not going to participate, do they find value in the recording? Do Marco members find value in taking the YouTube recordings of the net and sharing them with friends and family? We've had members that have suggested that it's Marco's within their realm of ethical responsibility as members to make others aware of it, certainly in the amateur community. But even in our friends and family, I think there's value in that. We'll make the recordings available through our Google group. I've done it on my Facebook postings too as well. Drop one. It's nice to see the uptake in vaccination rates shrinking down the reservoir. As you mentioned, the upcoming approval, permanent approval of the Pfizer vaccine should accelerate that condition. There's always going to be people that don't want to have the vaccine. And, of course, once the under 12s get vaccinated at that point, we hopefully will be in the herd immunity range. But we do always have the challenge of mutations that escape the vaccine, the immunity. Those escape mutants for breakthroughs, and that can originate from anywhere in the world, regardless of what we do here. So, Jack, thank you for your participation. Are there any other individuals here that are using the Quadnet array that might want to have questions in general, social comments? I mean, just in terms of social time, not social comments. Saying hello, meet and greet, aside from the medical aspects of our discussion today. AA4FL here. Go ahead.
J4FL and 4TSC. Were you able to copy me, Jay, or did I have a lot of dropouts today in 4TSC?
Yeah, a lot of dropouts, Jerry. They don't seem to be related to Hilton being here because he's not present today. But yes, you're dropping out consistently. Jack was wondering if you had a battery issue. But, who knows? Our radios, I'm not using the handheld anymore, the old MD380, because it's just so dated and I've been having issues because of that. And it's not worth trying to troubleshoot something that really should be retired. Over.
Well, when you come to a conclusion as to what I can use as a substitute for the MD380, let me know what you think, and we'll try to get a replacement for it. I think one of the important issues that we were discussing with a lot of different sources, they're questioning as to whether the breakthroughs that we're seeing, the quote-unquote breakthroughs, are due to an interruption in the cold chain, particularly with the Pfizer virus, vaccine, which I think has to be at minus 140 degrees. And any of the breaks in the chain can cause a disruption in the effectiveness of the vaccination or the vaccine. And so that was one of the points that we were discussing. And I suggested that the only way that we could test for that is if we did PCR tests on those that were unvaccinated against those who were vaccinated, that would give us an answer as to whether the problem that we're getting, this alleged disruption in breakthrough, is caused.
I got most of that, Jerry. Just let me know that you've stopped transmitting so I can go ahead and respond to that. And for TSC, are you copying me so I can respond, Jerry? Go ahead, 4FL. Is anyone else copying in for TSC? I'm not, so please advise.
Trey, you can pop out again, and just a quick comment for him. I think there's some reasonably decent data that vaccines aren't quite as critically tight in terms of temperature regulation, all that is originally were specified by the manufacturers. The reason for that, of course, is they don't stress them, and since it was on an EUA and not a full approval, they didn't want to take any chances. But I think we all understand that in reality, some doses, the case in Michigan accepted, some doses weren't able to be kept at the ultra-low temperature. And apparently, a number of folks were successfully vaccinated anyway. So, I don't know the answer for sure. I need to go and look the literature. Sure, I try to keep up with that stuff, but it moves fast, it's hard, and generally Susie and I kind of do a debrief to let each other know what the story is. Anyway, I'm on a little backcountry road on my way back home now. And, I need to put my hands on the wheels. So I'll check in and let you know that Jerry's still having his issues. Depends on whether he wants to buy a DMR radio. Katie4 is it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Jack, and enjoy the beautiful backroad scenery of Pennsylvania. I wish I could be there with you and keep you company and enjoy it as well. We're wickedly hot here, but here everything is uniform in South Florida. It all looks the same. Sure, right at the beach. So not to be complaining for being in what some would call utopia, but I do enjoy visiting other parts of the country. Thanks for participating again. Your point's well acknowledged and well understood, and realize that time will actually answer all these questions. And we'll get that temperature considerations. I'm sure I'll get more information about that in the future. So, Jack, I'm going to be going on to my father-in-law's. So, 7-3, great to talk to you, and I hope to talk to you next week. Jerry's still copying 73 as well. I'm going to go QRT. This is AA4FL.
Hey, Jay, Paul here, KG6JLE. Just a quick comment.
Comment before you go, Jay.
Paul here in the San Francisco Bay Area. If you get the vaccination, you are not going to have a positive PCR test. The PCR test tests for viral fragments, so a vaccination will not give you a positive PCR. If you're worried about or concerned about the cold storage issue, you'd have to get an antibody or you get a T-cell immunized, I believe it's interferon level that you can measure for T-cell immunity after vaccination. So that would be one thing. And in terms of mask mandates, I was thinking about it, and in California, I had not diagnosed one case of influenza during the winter year, And if there is no mask mandate, could you imagine with the COVID Delta variant on the rise and replicating similar symptoms to, let's say, an influenza or RSV infection? If you have a mask on, it'll help you further filter out those individuals who might be COVID positive as opposed to having influenza and like that. Definitely, I'd consider mask wearing markedly reduced influenza infections and help with COVID infections, but obviously it's apparent that COVID is much more infectious. Over.
Thank you for that, Paul. And Jack, if you're listening, thank you for that. And Jay, thank you for your participation and enjoy the party today. Sorry that you guys can't hear me. I keep breaking.
Okay, we have one of the Quadnet administrators here, and he has some comments. Will, go ahead. Four, is it WWN? Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, okay, no problem. I'll try to make my comments pretty quick. I've heard quite a bit. It was great listening. Number one comment that I wanted to make was that I didn't hear too much of anyone commenting on the effects of COVID with persons who are seeking or going through fertility, describing pregnancies, or trying to become pregnant for a reason for not taking COVID. And also, right quick, like the person that was breaking up, my first thing would I would check the model and type of router you got, along with if you are using a Wi-Fi. If you're not, I would encourage you to switch over to wired connection with your hotspot. Other than that, Jack been doing a wonderful job on his mobile, and glad to hear him come in as good as he was. But anyway, we're here and wanted to make those quick comments and turn it back over to Jay. You guys can take care. Wonderful net.
Thank you very much, Will, and thank you for the technology that allows us to have the net. I'm going to have to say 7-3s, but Will Paul is a practitioner actively providing care for patients, and I don't know if the pregnancy group is in his purview, but he might have information for you. So KG6, Charlie, I'm going to let you address Will's question, and I'm going to say 7-3. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Will. AA for us.
Thank you, Jay. Hi, Will. Paul here. Well, I'm not a OB-GYN or a pediatrician of internal medicine. And with regard to administering COVID vaccine to women who want to become pregnant or are pregnant, a lot of gynecologists locally are immunizing their women who are planning pregnancy or are pregnant. And the logic here is that, number one, women who are pregnant have a worse outcome if they do get SARS-CoV-2 infection, including mortality. That's number one. So they get sicker. Number two is that by immunizing women when they're pregnant, they obviously get passive antibodies transferred to the newborn. So that theoretically impairs immunity to a newborn against the virus. Again, is there hard science on it? No, but definitely it's measurable antibody levels. In terms of obviously making that a mandate or a recommendation, that would be based on, I would assume, a practitioner who specializes in that field. These are just observations that I've seen in the community. Over.
Roger that, and really appreciate you taking the time to give that type of information, which is very good. I didn't think of it that way, but of course, much closer to the medical field than I am, which I have none whatsoever, and appreciate that comment and discussions I can use with people, and especially the younger adult group that I'm surrounded with in that area. W4WW. Thanks again, guys. Guys are doing a great job, great service here on the QuadNet. W4WW.
Very well. This is Paul, KG6JLE Clear.
N4 TSC clear.
And Will, this is Katie 4IZ. Thank you, and thanks for making the service available. And this is Katie 4IZ down in the hole again, signing out.
Okay, guys, a great job, and Will, name here's Will, and we'll say 7-3, and everyone have a great day. W4WW, QuadNet admin.